Ole Miss started the college baseball season with an 11-3 win over the Nevada Wolfpack. We'll talk about that and what's coming up for the Rebels. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched podcast out there, Ole Miss-wise. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one podcast network in America. That's all because of you taking in content like this, and we appreciate it very much. On today's show, we are overreacting to the opening day win by the Ole Miss Rebels, 11-3 over the Nevada Wolfpack. And we will break down what we saw. We're going to try and do this after just about every baseball game. So we're going to have comments at the end, just like we do in football season, but we're going to try and be a little bit more relaxed about it because it's 60 games during the season, plus the postseason and all of that. So if you have any comments, please put them down in the comment section. Put where you're commenting from. I do want to shout that out as well. And we will just have a kind of a conversation for the next 20 to 30 minutes. If that works out, fantastic. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins defied the moment, but putting in the work, well, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. So Ole Miss won 11-3 against the Nevada Wolfpack in the season opening game. And I'm going to be honest, it started off a little bit shaky. It did. The very first batter of the game for Nevada took Elliott deep. The next one was about 2.5 feet away from a home run himself. Like the first two batters of the game, you had serious like Murray State flashbacks with them just clubbing the ball all over the yard. But Elliott was able to get back in control, and he just cruised from that point on. He had a very weird start to the game, but he was able to get under the control in a hurry. One thing that I was impressed about in this game, there was just enough small ball played in this game that kept me interested. My big concern about this team is 3-outcome hitting. And I don't like it whenever it's either home run, walk, or strikeout. There was a little bit more contact in this game. Now, granted, you were playing against Nevada, although they are the Mountain West champions. But when you look at 3-outcome hitting, there's always a chance it could get weird. Now, props to Brett Mosley, redshirt freshman out of Trussville, Alabama. Big moonshot at the end of the game. No doubt or home run. That was the Ole Miss only home run of the game, but it wasn't the only high point. Ole Miss in the early part of the game had bases loaded in the first inning. I think that multiple times in the first inning. Had bases loaded in the second, maybe even bases loaded in the third. They scored 6 runs in the first 2 innings. The game was essentially over at that point. It was 6-1, and they were cruising. There was one kind of hiccup fielding-wise that allowed Nevada to get their second and third run, the shortstop position, committing back-to-back errors. Now, the first play was a tough play. The second one was just a poor throw. But that was kind of a flashback to what we saw in previous years. But nothing happened that got them out of control, if that makes sense. And once the home run came and it became 11-3, the game was over, and you just counting the number of outs left on the schedule to get out of there, and you could move on. One thing that was pretty interesting about this game, Becerra, I think that's his name, 32. Tristan Becerra, 2 for 4. I think he scored multiple runs for the game. He ended up with 4 RBIs, had a double. He walked once as well. So it was 4 times for him 4 plate appearances, 3 times getting on base, and he was a workhorse for the Ole Miss offense. His first hit was a double into the right center field gap, was able to basically clear the bases. 3 of his 4 RBIs were from that. Now, if you look at it, that's roughly more than a third of the complete runs batted in for the game. But Basella had 2. Mosley had 2 pinch hitting, by the way, also in the left field position. So left field accounted for 4 RBIs. Hayden Federico had 1. Will Furness had 1 for a grand total of 10 RBIs in the game. Now, when you look at strikeouts, almost struck out 7 times for the game. I don't know. Nobody in this game was throwing heat. Nobody had excellent control. Nobody in the game had anything resembling what they're going to see in about a month. Okay. 7 strikeouts. I don't know if that is good. I don't know if that is bad or what, but it does need to be at least thought about of what's going on. When you look at the pitching staff, Elliott and Hudson Calhoun had very good days. Calhoun threw 3 and a 0.2 innings, 3 and 2/3. Ended up with 51 total pitches. Hunter Elliott had 82. He pitched 5 innings. Like I said, most of those pitches were in the first inning. He had a 20-ish pitch inning, I think, in the first inning. So nearly half of his pitches happened in the first 2 innings of the game for Hunter Elliott. At the end, and once he got on cruise control, was very good. Owen Kelly, the transfer out of, I think, St. Louis, he struggled a little bit, pitched a third of an inning, gave up 2 hits, 2 runs. That was the inning where there was an issue fielding. But that's something to, I guess, be concerned about, essentially. But as this moves forward, the weather's fantastic for mid-February, if we're going to be honest about it. Ole Miss should be in a position to make this work. All right, when we come back, we're going to get into the comment section. If they're there, we're going to talk about tomorrow's matchup, Cade Townsend coming in, the weather situation as we saw it right before we went on the air. We will talk about that as soon as we come back. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. All right. Hiring just isn't about finding somebody willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs, well, that's the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and of course, location. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through the mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen only by the candidates who are actually a fit for what you need. So, and here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get $75 in sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves. And at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. And the Winter Games are officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for the events that you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you the most ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start oh so slow and ended up so intense. Speed skating races that get, decided by inches. Hockey games that feel different from the opening face-off. Even the niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked in to the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. And finally, this is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Coach O has the Lady Rebels set for their biggest week in recent memory, and how they do will go a long way to them determining if they host in the NCAA tournament. They deserve our support. These Rebels remind us of exactly what it takes to raise the bar. It's the extra effort off the court, dialing in to every detail, giving it that extra mile, that grit, that I never quit. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel, and what it took to get there, well, that makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment to the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcast you're listening to and give us a 5-star review. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss the number one listen, and thank you for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network out there in America. That's all because of you. And join the Everydayer Club. The link is down in the show notes. You can get commercial free. You can get basically a Discord server to where we have, I don't know, upscale chats maybe. So we'll have that as well. So let's get back to the baseball game as well. Now, before we get out of here, going into tomorrow's matchup, there's two major storylines that were coming in. First of all, the people were worried about the weather. And I heard people talking about what the weather might be like moving forward into the game. And looking at the Weather Channel before I came on the show, it looked like it was going to be later in the afternoon, and they're going to be fine to get the game in if the Weather Channel is correct. So I'm not necessarily worried about weather. They're going to do what they have to do and whatever's going on. The second thing is Cade Townsend. He is a right-handed flamethrower. On Saturday, he's a little bit different than Hunter Elliott. They obviously are planning and plotting what is going on by having not a soft-tossing lefty, but a crafty lefty, and then a flame-throwing righty, and then they have a flame-throwing lefty. Cade Townsend coming into the game, throwing about 97 miles an hour, has a really good splitter. He is somebody that I am going to be paying attention to and have been looking forward to watching pitch ever since his, I think it was SEC tournament action. I think that's where it was. The first time you were kind of just shown him. And I'm curious. I'll ask Chad Smith about it. I'll ask the people that's involved. I'll keep an eye on. Hopefully the ball travels out of the ballpark more tomorrow than it did today. Brett Mosley did hit a long ball, and that was a pretty left-handed swing. Anybody that listens to the show knows that I'm a sucker for left-handed swings. But we'll see with the Ole Miss players and what's going on. The fielding, it looked better than it did against Murray State, but it didn't look great. There were still a couple of boots around the infield and things like that, and we'll see how it goes. I'm curious. Like I said, I think we had Chad Smith on Wednesday or something like that, or Tuesday. This is a must-sweep series. There isn't a world where losing one of these three games is okay if you want to accomplish your goals. So winning the game tonight, 11-3, that was expected. I like the dominant fashion of what's going on, but what you need to know is the first pitcher for Nevada had trouble with the strike zone. Once they got a pitcher that could hit the strike zone and could pitch pretty well, even though he wasn't throwing that hard, 88, 89 mile an hour fastball, he was able to string together some outs, and all of a sudden the hitting stopped a little bit. Well, up until Mosley hit that bomb. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this Ole Miss team functions moving forward. Again, Nevada Mountain West champions. I don't know what the baseball is like in the Mountain West Conference, but I'm assuming they're going to be pretty good at what they do. So Nevada coming in, they obviously have some Asian Pacific rimmers on their team. One of the pitcher that threw today was a typical Japanese pitcher. in every way. And you could tell that he kind of caught some people off guard with the way he delivered and the way the ball looked and the way the windup was and all that. I still like there's some idiosyncrasies around where things are developed. And I think Ole Miss would have gotten onto it essentially, but there was a stretch where he was able to get some outs. He had a pretty good day. All right, so let's go into the chat a little bit and see what's up. Not many people today. Some people on the vertical streams and some people on the horizontal streams. But we got Jay Walton saying, hey, from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, home of the Greyhounds, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're the Greyhounds. My high school coach, I had an assistant coach in high school named Todd Mangum, and I think Todd Mangum went to Ocean Springs to be the head coach. So Cal Capel says, what up from P-Town? Let's host still only the third best basketball team in Mississippi. Not a chance the Rebels make it to Gomaha. Oh, an LSU fan. That's surprising. Rex Thompson says, hotty toddy from Oliver Springs, Tennessee. Happy baseball season. It's starting. Hoping for a big year for the Ole Miss Rebels. They look pretty good. I like a couple of those left-handed swings. I like what they do with the bat. I want to see what happens when Ole Miss plays a lefty, if they do the matchup stuff. As you can see, the Old English D on my hat. Detroit has a manager that completely does right versus left matchups. Absolutely. I'm curious to see if there's a trickle down the first time that Ole Miss sees a left-handed pitcher, because it was lefty, lefty, lefty. It was a factory of left-handed hitters in this game. So we'll see how that looks. Oh, we got Trinidad throwing another dime. Yes. Today, I think I had a tweet and I put out that I kind of feel like I'm living on island time at the moment. You have Trinidad getting his clearance, which he deserved, by the way. You've got baseball season starting today. My first game, the Detroit game I'm going to see, is the 22nd. So it's about a week away. And it's just really good. It feels excellent with everything that is going on. LSU fans are embarrassingly obsessed with us. It is weird right now. It really is weird. And, you can't understand that. And so we'll see exactly what's up. Yeah, I love how LSU is turning into acting like little brother. They spent years of being superior in their own mind to what is going on, and now they're just begging for attention for something. It kind of reminds you the first time that you get into that fight with your little brother and he beats you up, he wins, and you have that realization that this is a completely different dynamic now. That is kind of the feeling coming out of Baton Rouge right now. They may not think they're putting that out, but that is the way it's being received. And after the Trinidad news, the LSU fans, the Clemson fans, the Georgia fans, the Mississippi State fans, although not as much, all of them crashing out over that news is some of the funniest manna from heaven. Give me those delicious tears in the history of the universe, because it validated everything that I have said for like 6 months. So thank y'all for that. All right. So we're going to do this again tomorrow. Tune in. Let's ho. Come on, buddy. Come on back tomorrow after the game when Ole Miss takes on Nevada. We will talk again. We will get into the chat room and all of that stuff, and we'll try to have a good time as well. But this has been the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. It's been a lot of fun. And do us a favor and like and subscribe to whatever podcast you're listening to. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to continue to talk about baseball all through this season. We're going to do as many live reactions after the game as we can. We're on all the social channels. Check that out. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Ole Miss ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to LockedOnOleMiss.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you on video, we're going to send you on over to the first 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you check out a second listen to Locked On College Football or Locked On SEC. Ole Miss 11, Nevada 3. Baseball season is off to a roaring start. We will see you tomorrow. Howdy toddy, everybody.